Okay, we good?
Yes.
Anyone mind if I go first?
No, please do.
Okay. So, for my part, I chose to focus on balance of total rewards and how different forms of direct compensation can slash should be used for executives. So, executive pay is often very high because companies see top leaders as huge contributors to strategy, growth, and stability. The talent pool for these jobs is small, so organizations feel pressure to offer attractive packages to recruit or keep them. But this can create problems like large pay gaps, low employee morale, and even situations where executives earn more than the value they provide. So, helpful solution is using a balanced total rewards approach, where instead of relying mostly on base salary, companies split executive pay into several different forms of direct compensation. This includes performance-based bonuses, stock or equity rewards, and long-term incentives that reward results over several years. Um, these tools ensure that executives earn more only when the company improves performance, which creates a strong link between pay and value. This also pushes leaders to focus on long-term success rather than short-term gains. Total rewards can also include non-cash elements like development opportunities and flexible benefits. These can motivate executives without increasing base pay. So, when the entire reward system, salary, incentives, and tangible rewards is designed well, organizations are more likely to get a real return on their investment into top leadership. My sources were a article from rsmus.com, our textbook, and the Executive Compensation Index of investor.gov. That's all I got.
Nice.
Yes.
Does anyone care if I go next or no? Okay. So the question that I focused on was different forms of executive incentives and how these compensation tools influence executive behavior, company performance, and long-term value creation. Executive incentives are designed to motivate leaders to act in the best interest of the organization and everyone who invests in that company, which is a major factor behind the high compensation packages often seen at the executive level. One of the most common incentives that I found is stock options, which gives executives the right to purchase company shares at a fixed price, and that means they only benefit if the stock price rises. This creation this creates a direct connection between corporate success and personal financial reward, encouraging executives to focus on driving long-term growth and shareholder value. Another really commonly used tool is restricted stock units or RSUs, which convert into actual shares upon investing and therefore always carry some sort of value. RSUs typically invest based on time or performance criteria, helping companies retain talent while ensuring stability and leadership and reducing risk for executives compared to stock options. Additionally, many companies rely on performance-based incentives such as performance shares, stock appreciation rights, which are SARs, and phantom stocks. Performance shares are awarded only when specific financial or strategic goals are met, reinforcing accountability and a performance-driven culture. SARs reward executives for increases in stock value without requiring them to purchase shares, avoiding equity dilution while still incentivizing stock growth in the company. And then Phantom stock operates similarly but pays out in cash based on the hypothetical share value, providing flexibility without affecting company ownership. Across all these tools, I think that the consistent objective is to balance short-term operation performance with long-term strategic value creation, ensuring that executive actions align with organizational goals. Ultimately, a well-designed incentive plan promotes retention, motivation, and accountability, helping whatever company achieve a measurable return on their executive compensation investments. And my sources are our textbook, corpgovlaw.harvard.edu, and jpmorganworkplaces.com. That's all I got.
Good job explaining the stocks. I'm gonna go next if that's okay, because I did the same one. So my first source is from the book. Short-term incentives are annual incentive plan bonuses. They play a major role in executive compensation and are primarily designed to motivate better short-term performance measured over a period of 1 year or less. The concern with these is that CEOs approve decisions with short-term payouts, but not necessarily desirable long-term outcomes. Long-term incentive plans assess performance over a period of longer than 1 year. These include stock options, restricted stock, and performance awards. Performance awards are the most used long-term incentive program for executives. The next article is from Pearl Meyer, and it's about incentive plan design. Short-term incentives or bonus plans are designed to focus executive attention on achieving the company's near-term financial and operational priorities. Most short-term incentive programs rely on a combination of quantitative financial metrics such as revenue, earnings per share, and strategic or operational goals aligned with enterprise initiatives. It's becoming more common for companies to incorporate non-financial performance indicators such as customer satisfaction, safety, or key transformation milestones to reflect a broader view of success. Short-term incentive plans should mirror the company's annual operating plan, reward true performance, and be clearly communicated to ensure alignment, transparency, and motivation. Long-term incentives are the primary mechanisms for aligning executive interests with shareholder value creation. For senior leaders, these programs typically represent the largest component of the total compensation and are structured to reward performance over a multi-year period, most commonly 3 years. Long-term incentives include performance share units, restricted stock, or stock options. For an effective long-term incentive design, performance metrics should be clearly defined, achievable yet rigorous, and aligned with the company's strategic objectives. Vesting schedules must strike a balance between retention and performance motivation. And the next source is by Meridian Compensation, and it's all about the long-term incentives. So stock options provide employees the opportunity to purchase company stock at a fixed price at any time during a future exercise window of time. This stock option has no value if the stock price does not increase, however, becomes valuable as the company's stock price increases, aligning the interests of employees and shareholders. Stock options provide future potential for financial gain based on company stock price performance. Stock appreciation rights, or SARs, entitle employees to the appreciation value of a specified number of employee stock over a specified period of time. These are typically paid out in the form of shares of company stock. SARs act like stock options, except that the employee doesn't have to pay an exercise price like they would with a stock option. Then there's restricted stock, is an award of employer stock that is subject to vesting requirements and transfer restrictions. Typically, restricted stock is granted with voting and dividend rights, since restricted stock is an award of shares of company stock, it provides employees with an ownership stake in the company, better aligning employees with shareholders. And then there's performance shares and units. And their awards contingent on meeting specified performance objectives over a multi-year period. The payout can vary based on the degree of achievement of these objectives. Long-term incentive plans offer a structured approach to incentivize and retain key employees by aligning their financial interests with the long-term success of the company, distinguishing these from base salaries and short-term bonuses, which do not typically foster a long-term outlook in employee performance and retention. And that is all.
I can go next. You did really great with your research, by the way. It is important, all of the stuff that you mentioned, especially in making sure to retain employees and make sure that they are actually getting paid and putting in the work for it. So I did the question on just seeing how executives, how their compensation is set, and stuff along with that. So I learned that when it comes to a compensation package, the intent is just to lure in or like influence and keep executive talent. Executives tend to be highly skilled in what they do, educated and hardworking with plenty of experience. So organizations need strong candidates for executive positions because they do have a large responsibility. A lot of big impact comes from the executive decisions. So making sure to attract the people who have the skills and knowledge to do the required job is very essential. If a compensation package is considered to be low, the executive can easily become unmotivated. As instrumentality theory explains, workers believe that their work will be reflected in their compensation. So if compensation does not seem fair in regard to the employee's performance, the employee will likely not stay with the company, so they wouldn't be retained. Executives may have high standards because they likely worked hard to get to where they are in the first place. So, in a society where there are so many employers hiring, there's plenty of opportunity for them to get where they might feel more appreciated for their efforts. But paying them high can come with some issues. One big issue that can be observed is income inequality. According to the 18 pros and cons of executive compensation and just some of the lecture videos, executives can earn about 300 times more than other employees at times. They get paid greatly, but that leaves employees who would be considered lower level pretty much getting paid barely even a fraction of that amount that the executives would be making. So the workers are left struggling, yet while working a full-time job, they're often able at times to, they're not able to have security when it comes to things such as housing and stability. This can leave the employees working that are working just as many hours, if not more than executives, feeling like they are at the bottom of the chain or just simply unimportant. And according to the two-factor theory, a base pay that is enough to cover their basic needs of the employee, it might not always motivate them. It's just the very least that the organization is supposed to do to make someone feel safe and secure. So that income inequality is a big factor on why a lot of people don't stay at their jobs and why some jobs have higher turnovers when it comes to positions that are considered to be under the executive position. Having long-term incentives are also very important in making sure that there is a return on the investment put into executives. Giving executives the task of meeting certain long-term goals on the company's behalf helps ensures that the executive is performing up to standard. Keeping executives up to date on trainings and involved in projects helps make sure that they are working for their large salary. A great long-term incentive would be to offer or give the executive some stock or share into the company. So the executive would be performing and getting paid based on how well they're performing. Since they are in charge of a lot of the decision making, if the company is doing bad, the executive would personally feel the repercussions of it. Yet the company, if it's doing well, the executive would be rewarded very nicely, which would keep them, successful in their job. You hopefully, when thinking about return, it's critical to just remember to think of it as value to a company. So even when hiring the best person for the job, it's just important to remember to find someone who gives the most return or value instead of just who looks like they are the best candidate at times. Because not everyone working long hours and that has the highest degree and stuff like that does deserve that executive position and what comes with it, like the higher compensation.
I like what you had to say about value there. I can go next. That's okay with everybody. Okay, so I chose the topic, the role of short-term and long-term incentives in executive compensation. So according to my source is a carta.com, the core compounds of an executive compensation package typically include base salary, performance bonuses, long-term incentive plans, and executive perks and benefits. Executive compensation is often very high due to the inclusion of both short-term and long-term incentives designed to align executives' interests with those shareholders. Examples of short-term bonuses can include cash bonuses, profit sharing, and spot awards, which can consist of gift cards, acknowledgement in the form of awards or public praise, as well as performance-based bonuses. Example of long-term bonuses include stock options and performance shares. According to an article that I found by Harvard Law School, while short-term incentives can motivate executives to achieve immediate results, they may also encourage risky behavior or decisions that boost short-term performance at the expense of long-term stability. Long-term incentives, however, align the executive's wealth with the company's stock price, encouraging them to make decisions that benefit the shareholders over time. This dual approach to compensation is relevant because it highlights why executive pay is structured to be so high. It is not just salary, but a package aimed at driving performance. The challenge is balancing these incentives to avoid negative behaviors like short-termism. I think that's right. Short-term, yeah, that's right. Okay. Or excessive risk-taking. And then my references were carter.com, Harvard Law Group, and meridiancp.com.
Yeah. Do you want to go next, Sarah? Or do you want me to go?
Do you mind if I go next, Sophia?
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I appreciate about the idea about the short term and the long term is valuable. And today I just want to focus on the three important aspects of the executive pay. When the issue happens, like the compounding salary adjustment, and we will focus on the equity theory and the exit packet. First of all, the compounding salary adjustment happens when the executive receive annual rise on the top of already high base salary. According to the survey in 2003, they claim that this could make the total compensation grow very quickly if the rise are not directly linked to the measurable performance. Besides that, in the textbook, they also explain that the unchecked pay growth could push the executive salary far above what reflects to the actual value they bring to the company. And the next one, the equity theories help us understand the fairness in the workplace, because in an article in the 2023 so that the big gaps between the executive pay and the regular employee pay could make the employee feel the system is unfair, and as far as we know, the perception of unfairness could hurt motivation and engagement of the people in a company. And a helpful website to check is the ACR Journal. In the 2025 article, they highlight how poorly designed executive reward could reduce just hot performance and even damage the long-term company value like everyone already thought about. And I recommend this site because it's research-based and easy to understand. Finally, the exit package provide big payout to executives if they lose their job because of the restructure or the reorganization. And beside that, over the textbook, they also claim the package can be useful for the attracting and retaining top talent, but they become controversial when payouts are too big and not linked to the performance. In summary, the companies need to manage this practice carefully to ensure the fairness align with the performance and protect both employee morale and the shareholder value. Yes, that's all my idea. Thank you.
Good job, Sarah. Okay, I'll go last. I did one that we've already covered, and that's how the executives' compensation is set. So they're through a structured process in which the board's compensation committee first establishes a pay philosophy, and then they conduct market benchmarking using peer group data and compensation consultants. Then the committee evaluates the executive's roles, responsibilities, and strategic impact to determine a competitive total compensation target. So then that target is divided into a mix of base salary, short-term bonuses, and long-term incentives with clear performance metrics tied to company goals. Legal tax and governance requirements are reviewed before the committee formally approves the package, which may then be reviewed by the full board. Then the finalized compensation is communicated to the executive, disclosed publicly for public companies, and reviewed annually based on performance and market conditions. And I got my sources from SHRM, Harvard Law Forum, and also JP Chase Morgan. And that's all that I have.
Is that everyone?
Yep, I think so. I'm going to stop recording.